Another year, another Pixel. And since I managed to get my hands on a Pixel 3 XL, I figured I'd try to do a complete walkthrough for you guys. Now, if you're not familiar, a complete walkthrough on this channel is where I try to go through every feature I possibly can to give you guys as much information as I can so that you are better prepared should you be in the market to actually buy the device. Now, with that said, there's a ton to go through as always, so let's get started with the design. The design is definitely getting more refined every year, with this year being the nicest we've seen yet. Now, besides the notch, but we'll get to that in a sec. The front and back are now made of Gorilla Glass 5 with an aluminum frame. But the back has been machined in a way that we've managed to get two different textures out of the same piece of glass. The top is smooth as you'd expect, but the rest, where your hand usually rests, has this silky, soft texture to it. You honestly have to hold it to understand, but it feels remarkable, I think. Because of this glass back though, we do now have Qi charging. It'll even support fast Qi charging, but apparently it only seems to work on Google's own $79 Pixel stand, as people are reporting. Now, I have a feeling this is because there is a proprietary tech that is needed to do fast Qi charging, and Google doesn't feel like paying for it. But regardless of why, keep in mind that your wireless charging on any device that isn't the Pixel stand just won't be very fast. On the left, we have nothing. On the right, we have our volume rocker and our different colored power button. On the white that I have here, it's a mint color. On the top, we have nothing. On the bottom, we have our USB-C port that supports power delivery of USB version 2.0 at 18 watts. And we have our SIM card slot. It also supports eSIM if your carrier does. This means that you can just call the carrier and activate the phone instead of having to use a physical SIM card. We also have a USB-C to 3.5mm adapter that is included in the box. On the front, we have our 6.3-inch POLED 18.5 by 9 aspect ratio 1440 2960 resolution screen, and while it's got great contrast and saturation, it's not the brightest screen out there, coming in at around 360 nits versus the iPhone XS Max's and Note 9's 600 or so. The Pixel 3 has a similar screen, but just in a 5.5-inch variety. Which brings us to the notch. I'm not a person who honestly minds notches on phones, but this one in particular is the strangest looking one out. There's something about the deepness of it that's a little off-putting, as well as the fact that if you look closely, there's a different angle for the top curves compared to the bottom ones. OCD kicking in hard. Honestly, it's not a deal breaker for me, as I again don't mind notches, but I can see why people are particularly rubbed the wrong way by this one. One more thing to note about the notch, though, that I think is a bit of an oversight on Google's part, is the fact that if you don't want it, there's no way to currently hide it in the OS, like most other manufacturers do. Normally, you could just turn the status bar that surrounds it black, and then it's much less noticeable. But here, we don't have that option at all. You can, however, go into settings and enable developer options and turn off the notch in there. A link to how to do that exactly below. But instead of making the status bar black, it actually pulls the entire display down, which completely negates the larger screen and makes it basically a Pixel 3 sized screen. Other than that, there are some options in the Play Store that can help, like this one that I've been using for a little bit. It works decently, but not all the time, but it's still better than whatever Google currently gives us. Now, maybe Google will add this in an update, but for now, know that if you get the Pixel 3 XL, you need to be okay with looking at that notch. In the notch though, we have two front-facing cameras, a normal angle and a slightly wider angle for wider selfies, groupies as Google is calling them. One is an 8-megapixel f1.8 28mm equivalent lens with phase detection autofocus that is pretty quick, and the other is an 8-megapixel f2.2 19mm equivalent ultra-wide with no phase detection autofocus. Also in there, we have one of our two dual front-facing speakers, with the other being below the screen, and they are properly loud and clear, honestly. Moving to the back, we have a fingerprint scanner that is our only option for security. No facial recognition despite the notch, and the fact that Android has this ability even with just a front camera now, which is odd, but whatever. Regardless, the fingerprint scanner is super fast and just like we're used to from Google. You can also squeeze the device, like the last Pixel, to get the Google Assistant, and even adjust the strength of the squeeze needed if you find it going off too much accidentally. The device is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 processor paired with 4 gigs of RAM, and it feels super snappy and responsive, as is usual for Pixel devices, of course. We have Bluetooth 5.0, aptX HD for higher quality Bluetooth audio streaming, Wi-Fi 802.11ac, Gigabit LTE, and a 3430 milliamp battery. The Pixel 3 has a 2915 milliamp one. For software, since it is a Google device, it is running the latest version of Android 9.0 Pie, and there's no real bloatware. Nothing from the carriers, just stuff from Google, like the Google Suite, which is pretty popular anyway. And along with this, it'll get updates for Android and security updates faster than any other device out, as is the usual with Pixels and the older Nexus devices as well. Since it is similar to most Android 9 devices, I won't go too much into the software, but there are a few things that Google has added that we need to discuss. Firstly, there is no longer our normal 3 navigation buttons that we're used to in Android for back, home, and multitasking. Instead, we have a gesture-based system that is based on a small pill at the bottom of the screen. You can tap it to go home, tap and hold it to get Google Assistant, swipe to the right on it to go back through your apps, but oddly you cannot swipe the other way to go the other direction as the carousel animation would suggest. There is a back button that will appear whenever you have the need for it. Swiping up on the pill will get you to your multitasking card view, and either swiping up twice or swiping up slowly and deliberately, you can get to your app drawer. The odd thing here is that on other devices, you have the option to swap back to the 3-button navigation again, but on the Pixel, you just don't. I feel like it's Google's way of setting the stage for people to get used to gestures and the ultimate degradation of the buttons, but we'll see. I don't mind the gestures though. They aren't the most intuitive, honestly, but you do get used to them eventually. Another neat party trick Google added to the Pixel that other devices don't have is a smart call screening feature. When you get a call, you have an option on the call screen to let Google Assistant answer it for you. When it does, the person will hear the familiar Google Assistant voice, and you'll see the entire conversation transcribed, in near real time actually, at least in my testing, on the screen, and choose from actions there. This is actually really cool, I think, and is the beginning of what will ultimately lead us to the Google Duplex feature that we witnessed at I/O this year that has Google making calls to restaurants to make reservations for you that is supposedly going to be coming eventually. Now, besides that, there isn't much to the OS that isn't very similar to any other version of Android, so for the most part, we're good. Let's move on to the camera. Ah yes, the Pixel camera. The main selling point of last year's model that, even to this day, still takes some of the best photos on a phone. The Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3 XL continue this, thankfully. The camera on the rear is a 12.2 megapixel f1.8 camera with 1.4 micron sized pixels, dual pixel autofocus, which is incredibly fast, and optical stabilization. And while compared to some other devices that have recently launched, that might not sound terribly impressive on paper, it's the software behind this camera that makes it what it is. The device can use the software in their incredible Auto HDR to take a bunch of photos at differing exposure levels and combine them to make a super sharp, well-exposed image. And while we've seen other devices do this to some degree, there's something about the final image that Pixel gives you that is just super contrasty, accurate, and sharper than most. One person once described it to me as the Pixel camera does the edits that a photographer might do to an image to make it look better as soon as it takes the photo. Now, I tend to agree. To some degree. The Pixel 3 XL is a phone you need to just be good at framing photos, and that's it. It'll do the rest. Now, I do think that the Pixel 3 camera is probably the best camera out right now, but compared to the Pixel 2, it's not winning by as much of a large margin. In this last year, a lot of manufacturers have been able to come out with their own versions of HDR that work incredibly well, like the new Smart HDR on the iPhones, and Auto HDR on some other devices, and so the gap is definitely thinning. But with that said, this is still an amazing camera. Now, in addition to the crazy image processing the Pixel 3 XL can do, Google added some other little software camera tricks that seem kind of useful. First, we have Top Shot, which takes a bunch of photos at once whenever you take one and automatically tries to decide which photo is the best. You can, of course, then go in and choose a different image, but it is kind of cool that it does that to save you from having people with closed eyes, etc. Then we have Night Sight, which technically isn't available yet and is coming soon, quote unquote, but I managed to find a modified APK online that did let me use the feature. Now, take that with a grain of salt though, as this is not an official version, but it gives us some idea of what Night Sight is going to do. Now, essentially, Night Sight takes a longer exposure shot while you're holding the phone handheld and uses its machine learning to kind of negate the fact that your hand is shaking, which would normally result in streaks in the image. Now, of course, this is very similar to the new Mate 20 series from Huawei, their night mode, as well as the older Huawei P20 and P20 Pro. And besides that, we have panorama mode, which is very similar to all the panorama modes we're used to, where it stitches multiple photos together in order to create a longer panoramic shot. Then we have portrait mode, which mimics a fast aperture DSLR, for example, that gives you a much more blurred background. But Google, again, does not use two lenses to do this. They simply use their own machine learning and their own tech, and the result is pretty good. You can also adjust the focus in portrait mode, as well as adjust the blur like we've seen on a lot of other devices lately. Then we have our normal camera mode, which can shoot 4:3 at 12.2 megapixels, all the way down to 0.9 megapixels in 16:9. Then we have our video mode that we're used to, which is our auto video mode, and it can shoot 4K at 30 frames per second. Next, if you click on more, we have Photosphere, which allows you to take photos in every angle of all 360 degrees to create a photosphere. This is similar to the Google Street View that we see when using Google Maps. Next, we have slow motion, which allows us to shoot in either 1/4 or 1/8 speed. We have photo booth mode, which allows you to use the front camera, and once you tap the button to begin, every time you smile or make a strange face, it will automatically snap photos for you. Then we have Playground, which is basically their AR camera. You can throw in different stickers, they call them, or different items, and place them in the real world around you, resize them, take photos with them, videos with them, etc. We also have Google Lens, which allows you to use the camera to identify different objects, shop for different objects, etc. And now really quick, let's go through the camera settings. We have a timer that lets you set a timer between when you push the shutter and when the photo is taken. We have motion, which is similar to live photos, which creates a small clip of video before and after when you press the shutter that can be played back in the gallery. We have our temperature, which is our white balance, which you can set from a few different options as well as just set to auto. And we have our different flash options. Then we have Save Location, which saves location metadata to the photo for organizational reasons. We have Camera Sounds, which you can turn on and off. I personally always would leave that off. Google Lens Suggestions lets you turn Google Lens on and off. Gestures, which allow you to choose what the volume key and double tapping do. We also have a grid. We could choose between different grids. I always use rule of thirds personally, but this helps you line up shots better. And then clicking into advanced, we have show dirty lens warning, which will try to warn you whenever it thinks that the lens might be dirty and things are getting blurry, and it asks you basically just to clean the lens. HDR plus control, which allows you to manually control HDR plus. If you leave this off, it's just on all the time, which is what I recommend, and it's kind of what helps the Pixel be the Pixel. RAW plus JPEG support, which if you turn this on, you'll actually save a RAW DNG file separately every time you take a photo. And finally, we have the ability to save videos as H.265 or HEVC format, which is a smaller file size, but keep in mind that it may not be supported whenever you share it to certain networks or other people might not have players that can play it. And then we have all of our resolutions that we mentioned already, and video stabilization, which is their EIS, so their electronic stabilization that helps them stabilize videos further. There you go, guys, complete walkthrough of the new Pixel 3 XL, and I guess the Pixel 3 as well, because they're very similar. The only difference is the screen size and the battery, basically. But hope you guys enjoyed that. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Unlocker, with an E missing in the word Unlocker, for more photos from this device. I'm also going to take the Pixel 2, which I have here, Pixel 2 XL and the Pixel 3 XL, and kind of put them head to head in some photos and videos as well, because I'm kind of curious how much did it actually improve. If you guys are interested in that. Otherwise, if you like this video, please thumbs up it or share it. It's greatly appreciated. Also, check out the rest of the channel if you like what you see there. Subscribe and hit the bell next to the word subscribe so that you get notified when I do new videos. Otherwise, though, as always, thanks for watching.